What's your favorite piece of creepy folklore or legend? Have you guys ever heard of Scuzzlebutt? Scuzzlebutt is a creature that lives up the Colorado mountains and kills anybody who dares climb to the top, because it loves the taste of blood and likes to add pieces to its deformed body. On his left arm, instead of a hand, he has a piece of celery. And he walks with a limp, because one of his legs is missing. And where his leg should be, there is nothing but Patrick Duffy. He lives alone on his mountain and weaves baskets and other assorted crafts. They say that on quiet nights, you can hear him weaving his baskets. The Wendigo. After doing more research, I don't go hiking in the woods anymore. The Knuckleavy, a demon from Orkney. Basically, think of a giant zombified horse, with a human upper half growing out of its torso and arms that stretch all the way to the ground. Then, take away its skin, give it black blood in its exposed veins, and pulsating muscles. Then, you give it horrifically poisonous breath that can wither crops and sicken livestock just from being nearby, causing plagues, droughts, and famines all the way. End result, one of the most horrific creatures in any mythology, even written to have no redeeming qualities at all. I have no favorite. Research Lebanese/Middle Eastern superstition though, we're really superstitious people, haha. An example is that if you spill salt, you should throw a pinch over your left shoulder to bind evil spirits. Skinwalkers will always scare the hell out me. I dread the day that I'm driving home at night and I see a deer look at me with a deadpan stare and slowly raise on its back legs and take a step towards me. Yes, at 25 years old I'm still afraid of monsters. I enjoy how vastly different Loki's kids are. I also enjoy how many of them kill Asgardians during Ragnarok. Living near Indian reservations always had me terrified of skinwalkers. So driving up to the mountains fro where I live, you have to drive through the reservation on the highway, and typically during the day it's always fine, but at night during that portion of the drive everything is still and so eerie. You always see coyotes or wolves. I'm just expecting to look over one day and see one hop up on two legs and sprint towards me like the T-1000. The Michigan Dogman, a 7-foot-tall dogman who hunts around northern Michigan, appears every decade on years that end in 7. So we're safe for now. If interested, check out The Legend by Steve Cook. Excerpt in 57, a man of the cloth found claw marks on an old church door. The newspaper said they'd been made by a dog. Head A had to stood 74. In 67, a vanload of hippies told a park ranger named Quinlan they'd been awakened in the night by a scratch at the window. There was a dogman looking in and grinning. The Mockolite in North Carolina. Man conducts train cuts his head off, disembodied head returns as a ghostly floating light. That old chestnut always freaked me out as a kid. Baba Yaga. Without her, Vasilisa would have had no evidence to throw in the river. There is some creature from some tribe, I forget where, but it looks like a man and lives in the jungle, but it has big holes in its armpits, and if it attacks you, you have to shove your fists in the holes. I feel like this actually deserves full channel in its own right. So maybe I just do r/creepy folk legends and see what happens? Man shrugging, not sure I'm mod material though. Tpedit, tis done children/brethren, or WTVR the heck in heck you're comfortable with _. Join the channel and let's talk creepy folk tales. For example, anybody ever hear of the actual Baba Yaga? Not John Wick, but a creepy old hag who lives in a house on chicken legs that steals bad children and captures them to her underworld/alternate dimension to serve as her slaves. My favorite cryptid is probably poltergeist. I know it's kinda basic but I still like them. Japan. Legit, they have the creepiest shit, like that split-faced woman or the angry top half of a ghost. I'm oversimplifying a lot, like sure, the Celts have a fused man-horse abomination that brings disease everywhere, but they don't have giant invisible skeletons. Marzana, it's about a virgin who drowned to end winter every year in Poland. We drown a virgin, a human-sized doll of course, in the river so that the winter can come to an end. There are parties, there is food, there is murder and music, fun for the whole day. That the blues guitarist Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil to get good at guitar. My dad used to tell me that the mechanical noises that come from escalators are actually the screams of children that didn't step off in time at the top and got sucked inside of it. The Tsuchinoko. It's a little fat Japanese snake that can double jump. The journey to becoming a sangoma involves you sitting in a river for an extended period of time, communicating with an old woman who helps you connect with the ancestors. Anyone who passes by, though, will see you talking to a snake. Night hag. The night hag is a mythological creature that immobilizes you in your sleep by sitting on your chest or feet. I don't believe in supernatural entities, but if I did I would be certain that this cunt haunts me. The tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. The Kelpies. Man, those demons scare the crap out of me, but I love it so much. It's so interesting. Also, changelings. I'm Scottish, so it was interesting to read about. In our Filipino culture, you should never walk or drive alone in Balete Drive, because that's where the infamous white lady appears. I read that as what's your favorite piece of crappy folklore or legend? In Brazil we have the Boto Cor-de-Rosa. It's a river dolphin who transforms into a man and FK married woman. Out of all the places where I've lived, there was always some elfstone or otherwise haunted place nearby. As a kid, there were some spirits in the garage's attic that would kill all cats. Then I moved and lived on a street that couldn't be widened because of an elf hill next to it. Now I live in a house that couldn't be built because of an elfstone, and they had to call a medium and make deal with the elves inhabiting it. In Russian fairy tales, they have a creature named Baba Yaga. She has a bone leg and lives in a hut on chicken legs in the middle of the forest. Kids believe that those who have bad behavior will be kidnapped by her. Actually, ancient Slavs had this tradition to bury people in those kinds of huts and burn them down. So Baba Yaga is actually death itself. She is a bridge between the worlds of dead and alive. Living near Indian reservations always had me terrified of skinwalkers. So driving up to the mountains fro where I live, you have to drive through the reservation on the highway, and typically during the day it's always fine, but at night during that portion of the drive everything is still and so eerie. You always see coyotes or wolves. I'm just expecting to look over one day and see one hop up on two legs and sprint towards me like the T-1000. The wedding story is that a wedding was interrupted by a jealous man. He and his gang killed everyone and went to celebrate his deed. That night the man hears music and screaming and he checks to see the dead wedding goers killing his crew and grabbing him. They are then dragged by the procession around the village. The man died of his injuries. At night if you hear the hooves of horse and music, just leave either some fruit or other snacks and go back inside your house. It's thought to give you good luck if you do this. I've seen Whiskey Jack, a pair of fairy lights trapped between heaven and hell. The legend of the Wendigo is cool. I'm thinking Papo Bawa, from far off and beautiful Zanzibar. The name is a Swahili word, meaning batwing. Basically, Papo Bawa is a bat-shaped demon or spirit, going around and raping people, mainly grown men. Way more scary than plain old vampires or Batman, if you ask me. Oh, and another thing Papo Bawa is really good at, causing mass panics which spread like wildfire. There have been several instances. More info available at https://n wikipedia.org/wiki/papobawa. Leprechauns. They've been made to seem friendly, but if you found a real leprechaun protecting a pot of gold, I doubt it would be that friendly. When I visited cousins in Alabama, they told a story that at night a ghost of an old Confederate woman would go around and walk around on the backs of everyone who was sleeping. If you woke up, it meant you were part of the Union and she'd kill you. It's rather tame and kinda stupid, but it scared the shit out of me as a kid. The Gashadokuro is a sort of spirit from Japanese folklore that appears in areas with a lot of human suffering and despair, like battlefields. It manifests as a giant human skeleton and announces itself by a ringing in your ear. Excuse me if some of this is wrong, I'm not an expert on Japanese folklore. Maui from Moana turned into a worm and tried to crawl through a goddess's uterus and out of her mouth to gain immortality. Instead he got crushed by the obsidian teeth of her vagina. Good role model for kids? Maybe not. Some of the really creepy and creative Japanese folk creatures. The cuco. In Guatemala and Mexico is common that when you were a kid, they sing you a song before to sleep. This song tell the story of what happened to the kids that does not sleep on time. The cuco came to the house and kill you. After that rubs all your blood on his body. Sweet dreams, little kid. La Llorona, El Coco, and Gente de Muerte, from Herdan folklore, in Extremadura. Jotla Pass incident. I just wanna know what caused it all. I'd much of the detail, but there's this Filipino folklore. It's a man with a horse head that lives in the woods and apparently rapes women. Frown. There's one I know that's from Japan. It is a giant starving skeleton that eats people. Gashadokuro? There's supposedly a creature wandering the forest of Dover, New England, I forget the state. It's called the Dover Demon and I don't know all the details, but it looks very creepy. Its motives are still unknown to me. I have always been totally fascinated with Polybius. As a Scottish person, Kelpies come to mind. They are shape-shifting spirits that inhabit lakes. They are usually black horse-like creatures, but can appear as humans to prey on them. They show up a lot in Scottish folklore. In most stories, they are helpful to humans before luring them into the water and devouring them. In other ones, they desire human companionship but are dangerous.